Attention is the rarest resource in the modern world. Not money, not time, not even genuine connection. Attention, the capacity to hold someone else's focus, to draw their awareness toward you and keep it there, has become the true currency of influence, success, and meaning. In a world where billions of people are competing for the limited attention of billions of other people, the person who understands how to generate and sustain genuine attention has access to a form of power that transcends nearly every other advantage. Think about the last time someone gave you their complete, undivided attention, not the polite surface attention of someone checking their phone while nodding at you, not the distracted half-presence of someone thinking about something else, but genuine attention. The kind where you felt seen, heard, and valued, where the person across from you seemed to be entirely present with you, entirely focused on understanding what you were saying and what you meant. How rare was that experience? How memorable? How much did it change how you felt about that person? This is the foundation of everything in this audiobook. Magnetic presence is not about being loud or charismatic in the conventional sense. It is not about dominating a space or demanding that people pay attention to you. It is the opposite. It is the capacity to create such a quality of authentic presence, such a genuine engagement with the world and the people in it that attention flows towards you naturally, as if you are a magnet, and attention is the metal that cannot help but be drawn. Throughout history, every person who has been described as truly influential, truly charismatic, truly able to move others toward action and meaning, has possessed this quality, not because they were the loudest, or the most aggressive, or the most ambitious, but because they understood something fundamental about human attention and how it works. They understood that in a world drowning in noise and distraction and competing demands, the person who can offer genuine presence becomes irresistible. This audiobook is built on 14 laws, 14 principles that when understood and practiced fundamentally transform how others perceive you and relate to you. These are not techniques, they are not tricks or manipulations, they are truths about how human attention actually operates. Truths that have been embedded in the nature of human psychology for millennia, and truths that are more relevant and more powerful now than they have ever been. As you move through these 14 laws, you will notice something. They work together. They are not isolated principles, but parts of a unified system. Each law strengthens the others. Each one makes the next one more possible, more natural, more effective. By the time you reach the end, you will not just understand these laws individually. You will have integrated them into a unified approach to presence. An approach that becomes not something you do, but something you are. The first law is called the law of undivided focus, and it is the foundation upon which all the others rest. Law 1, the law of undivided focus. In a world of infinite demands on your attention, the person who can offer undivided focus to something or someone has already achieved something extraordinary. Most people are never fully present anywhere. They are in one place physically while their mind is somewhere else entirely. They are listening to someone speak, while simultaneously composing a response, checking their phone, or thinking about what they need to do later. The texture of their attention is thin and scattered. The person who practices the law of undivided focus does something radically different. When they are with you completely. When they are engaged in a task, they are engaged entirely. Their attention is not divided among multiple competing demands. It is directed fully toward whatever is in front of them. And this simple act, this seemingly basic choice to direct full attention towards something, has an almost magical effect on the quality of whatever that something is. Undivided focus affects how you listen. When your entire mind is present in a conversation, you hear not just the words, but the meaning beneath them. You notice the hesitation, the emphasis, the things left unsaid. You hear what the person is really trying to communicate beneath the surface of what they are saying. This quality of deep listening creates in the other person the experience of being truly heard, which is one of the most profound human needs. Undivided focus affects how you work. When your complete attention is directed toward a single task, the quality of what you produce increases dramatically. The creativity flows more freely. The problems reveal themselves more readily. The solution space opens up in ways it does not. When your attention is fractured among 5 different things, this is not just about productivity in the narrow sense. It is about the depth and quality of what you create. Undivided focus affects how you are perceived. People can sense whether someone is genuinely present with them or merely performing the appearance of presence. When you direct your complete attention towards someone, they feel it. They feel that they matter enough to have your full awareness. And in a world where most people feel invisible and undervalued, the experience of mattering enough to receive someone's complete attention is extraordinarily powerful. The practice of undivided focus begins with the simple decision to be where you are. When you are in a meeting, be in the meeting. When you are with someone, be with them. Not your body present and your mind elsewhere. Not the surface of you engaged, while the deeper part of you is thinking about something else. All of you in that place, in that moment, with that person or task. This sounds simple, but it is profoundly difficult. The modern world is structured to fragment your attention. Notifications, messages, the constant availability of information and stimulation, the cultural norm of always being reachable, all of these things work against the capacity for undivided focus. They train your mind to be scattered, to expect interruption, to keep part of your awareness always on alert for the next demand. Breaking this pattern requires deliberate practice. It requires choosing actively and repeatedly to close the doors on other demands, to silence the notifications, to put the phone away, to tell yourself that for this period of time, whatever is in front of you has your complete attention. It requires tolerating the initial discomfort of being separated from the constant stream of information and connection that your nervous system has become addicted to. But the rewards are immediate and profound. The first time you have a conversation with someone while giving them your complete attention, without planning your response while they are still speaking, without checking your phone, without letting your mind drift to other concerns, you will notice something. The conversation goes deeper. The connection feels more real. The other person seems to open up in ways they do not when your attention is divided, and you will understand at a direct experiential level why this first law matters. The law of undivided focus is the foundation of magnetic because it demonstrates respect. When you give someone your complete attention, you are saying without words that they are worth your most precious resource. You are worth the full investment of my awareness. You matter enough that I am not allowing other concerns to dilute my engagement with you. This message is received at a deep level, and it generates a response of openness, appreciation, and connection that is extraordinarily powerful. Law 2, the law of genuine curiosity. Attention is not something you generate through force or performance. It is something that emerges naturally from genuine curiosity. When you are truly curious about something or someone, your attention does not feel forced or artificial. It feels natural. It feels like you are discovering something that matters. And this naturalness is one of the most magnetic qualities a person can possess. Genuine curiosity is different from the performance of curiosity. It is different from asking questions, because you have been taught that asking questions is a good technique, or because you are following some formula about how to be engaging. Genuine curiosity is the actual real desire to understand something about another person or situation. It is the wondering that comes when you encounter something that you actually want to know more about. And this quality of genuine wondering is felt immediately by the person on the receiving end of it. People can sense the difference with remarkable accuracy. The person who is asking questions while thinking about something else, while waiting for their turn to talk, while mentally evaluating what they are hearing against some framework they already have in mind, is not genuinely curious. They are performing a script, and people feel that they experience it as inauthentic, as performative, as a manipulation rather than a genuine engagement. But the person who is genuinely curious who actually wants to understand what another person else thinks and feels and experiences, who is willing to be surprised by what they learn, who is genuinely interested in perspectives that differ from their own, creates an entirely different experience. In their presence, people feel safe revealing more of themselves. They feel that it is okay to be authentic, to disagree, to express opinions that might not align with what the other person thinks, because the genuine curiosity creates space for genuine difference. And that space is extraordinarily valuable. The cultivation of genuine curiosity begins with the recognition that you do not fully understand anyone or anything, that every person you meet is more complex than your initial impression of them, that every situation has dimensions that you might not be seeing, that every perspective, no matter how foreign to your own, contains something worth understanding. This is not about relativism or the abandonment of your own standards. It is simply about the humility to recognize that your current understanding is incomplete and that there might be something worth learning. Genuine curiosity shows itself in the quality of the questions you ask. Not the questions designed to steer the conversation in a particular direction. Not the questions that are really statements in disguise, but questions that come from a place of actual wondering. Questions that genuinely leave space for an unexpected answer. Questions that follow where the conversation actually goes, rather than where you had planned for it to go. It shows itself also in your ability to listen to the answer without immediately relating it back to your own experience, without planning your response, without evaluating it against your existing beliefs. It shows itself in the willingness to say, "I did not know that," or "That is interesting. I had not thought of it that way," or "Tell me more. I want to understand that better." These simple statements, when genuinely meant, signal to the other person that they have said something that actually matters to you. The person who practices genuine curiosity as a way of being discovers something remarkable. They find that people open up to them. They find that conversations go deeper. They find that they are drawn into people's inner lives in ways that create powerful connections. And they find that this openness and depth, this willingness to be genuinely interested in others, is one of the most attractive qualities they can possess. The law of genuine curiosity is foundational to magnetic presence because it makes the interaction about the other person, not about you. When you are genuinely curious, you are not thinking about how you appear, about whether you are being impressive, about whether the other person likes you. You are focused entirely on understanding them, and that focus creates a kind of relief in them. The pressure to perform is lifted. They feel that they are the object of genuine interest, and that creates an ease and openness that makes deeper connection possible. Law 3. The law of authentic presence. Authenticity is perhaps the most overused and least understood word in contemporary culture. Everyone speaks about the importance of being authentic, of being yourself, of bringing your genuine self to your interactions, but very few people actually understand what this means or how to practice it. Authenticity is not the absence of any filter or any awareness of context. It is not about saying everything you think or revealing every aspect of your inner life to everyone you encounter. Authentic presence means something more specific and more subtle. It means that when you are with someone, the person who is present is genuinely you, not a carefully constructed version designed to be impressive, or to avoid rejection, or to meet some external standard of who you should be. It means that there is a basic alignment between your inner experience and what you are expressing outwardly. It means that when you smile, it is a genuine smile, not a performance. When you express interest, it is genuine interest, not a technique. When you disagree, you do so honestly, not while performing agreement. This kind of authenticity creates a particular kind of resonance in others. People can feel when someone is genuinely present with them versus when they are interacting with a curated, performed version of a person. And they respond to genuine presence with their own openness and authenticity. There is a contagious quality to authenticity. When you are genuinely yourself, it gives other people permission to be more genuinely themselves. And this mutual authenticity is the foundation of the deepest and most meaningful connections. The cultivation of authentic presence begins with the awareness of your own patterns. What are the ways in which you typically perform rather than simply being? What are the masks you habitually reach for? What do you believe you need to be or do or appear as in order to be accepted or valued? These are not questions to be answered intellectually. They are things to be noticed gently and without judgment as you move through your daily interactions. Authentic presence also requires a particular kind of self-acceptance. It is difficult to be genuinely present when you are constantly evaluating yourself, judging yourself, wishing you were different. The person who is at war with themselves, who feels shame about some aspect of their nature or their history or their appearance, who is trying to hide or compensate for something they perceive as a flaw. This person cannot be fully authentic because a part of their attention is always directed toward management of the image they are projecting. But the person who has made peace with themselves, who accepts their own limitations and imperfections without shame, who does not feel the need to present a false front because they are comfortable with who they actually are, this person can be genuinely present, and that genuine presence is magnetic. It creates permission for others to relax, to stop performing, to be more fully themselves in your presence. The law of authentic presence is not about being constantly warm or agreeable. Authenticity can include boundaries. Authenticity can include disagreement. Authenticity can include the honest acknowledgement that you do not understand something, or that you made a mistake, or that you are uncomfortable with a particular dynamic. Authentic presence means that when you communicate, you are communicating from a place of integrity rather than from a place of calculation. The effect of authentic presence is that people trust you more, not because you appear perfect or impressive, but because you appear real, because what they are experiencing is you, not a performance. And trust based on authentic presence is far more durable and far more valuable than trust based on the perception of perfection or superiority. The person who is genuinely present and genuinely themselves has built a foundation of connection that can weather differences and challenges because it is built on realness rather than on illusion. Law 4, the law of presence over performance. In a culture obsessed with status and impression management, the person who can drop the need to perform and simply be present becomes extraordinarily magnetic. This does not mean being passive or underdamic. It means that the energy you bring to an interaction comes from genuine presence, rather than from the effort of creating an impression. The difference between presence and performance is subtle but decisive. The person in performance mode is constantly managing how they appear, what impression they are creating, whether they are coming across as intelligent or impressive or likable. A part of their attention is always outside of the interaction, evaluating how it is going, making adjustments to ensure the outcome they want. This divided attention shows it creates a quality of self-consciousness that is felt by everyone else in the space. The person in genuine presence mode is focused entirely on what is actually happening in this moment with these people in this context. They are not worried about the impression they are creating because they are not divided between being present and monitoring how they appear. This focus on what is actually happening rather than on how it appears creates a quality of ease and groundedness that is extraordinarily attractive. Presence over performance affects every aspect of how you are perceived. Your voice becomes more natural, less forced. Your body language becomes more relaxed, less posed. Your listening becomes more genuine, less strategic. Your engagement becomes more real, less calculated. And all of these shifts combine to create a quality of presence that draws attention toward you like a magnet draws metal. The cultivation of presence over performance begins with noticing when you are in performance mode. When do you find yourself self-conscious? When are you most concerned about how you appear? When do you feel the need to be impressive or to manage the impression you are creating? These moments of noticing are the beginning of the shift. Because once you are aware of the pattern, you can begin to choose something different. The shift from performance to presence is not dramatic. It is a gradual relaxation of the tension you are holding, a gradual refocusing of your attention from how you appear to what is actually happening. It is the subtle choice, moment by moment, to let go of the need to manage the impression and to instead be fully present with what is unfolding. One of the most remarkable things about the shift from performance to presence is that your effectiveness actually increases. When you stop trying to be impressive and start being genuinely present, you are actually more impressive. When you stop trying to be likable and start being genuinely yourself, you are actually more likable. This is because authenticity and genuine presence have a power that performance can never match. They resonate at a level that is deeper than the conscious evaluation of impression. They touch something in the other person that makes them feel seen, valued, and connected. The law of presence over performance is particularly important in high-stakes situations. In an interview, in a negotiation, in a meeting where you are trying to make a good impression, the temptation to go into performance mode is intense. But it is precisely in these moments that the choice to remain present rather than to perform becomes most valuable. The person who can remain present and genuine even under pressure is the person who is most attractive and most influential, because their centeredness and realness communicate a kind of confidence that performance never can. Law 5. The law of the quality of listening. Most people are not good listeners. They listen while waiting for their turn to speak. They listen while planning their response. They listen while evaluating what is being said against their own beliefs. They listen with only a part of their attention while the rest is directed elsewhere. This kind of listening is not really listening at all. It is waiting for silence so you can speak. But the person who practices the law of the quality of listening does something fundamentally different. They listen with their entire being. They listen not just to the words, but to the meaning beneath them, the emotions that are being expressed, the things that are being left unsaid. They listen without planning a response, without waiting for the pause where they can interrupt and take over. They listen as if the other person has something genuinely important to communicate, and their job is to fully receive it. This quality of listening has an almost magical effect on conversation. The person who is being truly listened to opens up. They say things they were not planning to say. They reveal dimensions of themselves that they do not usually reveal, and the quality of the conversation itself deepens. It moves from the surface level of politeness and small talk into a realm where genuine communication becomes possible. The practice of the quality of listening begins with the decision to listen fully. This means putting away your phone. It means silencing the inner voice that is planning your response. It means releasing the need to evaluate what is being said. It simply means receiving with your full attention and your full being what another person is communicating. This sounds simple, but it is extraordinarily difficult because you are going against most of the cultural training you have received about conversations. The quality of your listening is communicated through subtle signals. The quality of your eye contact, the openness of your body language, the lack of fidgeting or distraction, the genuineness of your facial expressions, the presence of appropriate pauses that show you are actually considering what has been said, rather than just waiting to speak. The quality of your follow-up questions, which demonstrate that you have actually heard and understood what was communicated. All of these signals together communicate to the other person whether they are being truly listened to or merely heard. One of the most powerful elements of true listening is the willingness to be present with someone's emotion without trying to fix it or change it. Most people want to fix what they perceive as a problem in someone else. If someone is sad, they want to cheer them up. If someone is uncertain, they want to provide reassurance. If someone is upset, they want to solve the problem. But sometimes what a person needs most is not a solution. They need to be heard. They need to feel that their experience is valid and that someone cares enough to simply be present with them in it. The person who can listen without immediately trying to fix or change or improve the situation creates a rare kind of safety in relationships. The other person feels they can be more fully themselves because they are not being judged or evaluated or immediately pushed toward a particular kind of response. They are being received as they are, with whatever they are experiencing. And this kind of reception is one of the foundations of deep connection. The law of the quality of listening is foundational to magnetic presence because it makes other people feel valued. In a world where most people are barely hearing each other, the person who truly listens becomes exceptional. They stand out, they are memorable, and people want to be around them precisely because in their presence they feel truly heard and truly seen. Law 6. The law of emotional attunement. Beyond the words that are spoken in any conversation lies an entire landscape of emotion. The feelings beneath the surface, the unspoken anxiety or excitement or disappointment, the emotional resonance of what is being communicated. The person who can sense this emotional landscape and meet it with genuine attunement creates a quality of connection that is extraordinarily powerful. Emotional attunement means that you are not just listening to the content of what someone is saying, but you are also sensing the emotional tenor of what they are communicating. You are noticing the way their voice shifts when they talk about certain topics. You are picking up on the slight tightness around their eyes that signals stress or sadness. You are sensing when they are trying to appear strong, but are actually struggling. You are feeling the emotional reality beneath the surface presentation. This kind of attunement comes not from analyzing people, but from being genuinely open to their emotional state. It comes from practicing the quality of listening and presence that we have already discussed. Because when you are fully present and fully listening, you naturally begin to sense the emotional dimension of what is being communicated. The attunement emerges organically from genuine presence. Emotional attunement also means that you respond to the emotional reality rather than just to the surface content. If someone is telling you about a professional challenge, but you sense that the deeper issue is anxiety about whether they are competent enough, you might respond to that deeper emotional reality rather than just to the surface story. You might say something like, "That sounds like it has been really challenging for you," or "I can hear how much this matters to you." These responses acknowledge the emotional reality beneath the surface, and that acknowledgement creates a profound sense of being understood. The practice of emotional attunement also requires some emotional literacy. It requires that you are able to recognize emotions in yourself and in others, that you can name them, that you understand their origins and their expressions. This is not something that comes automatically to everyone. Some people have been taught to dismiss or ignore their emotions. Some people are disconnected from their emotional experience. But emotional attunement can be developed through deliberate practice. One way to develop emotional attunement is to spend time in genuine presence with the emotions that arise in you. When you notice a feeling, pause and fully acknowledge it. What is the emotion? Where do you feel it in your body? What is it trying to communicate? As you develop familiarity with your own emotional landscape, you naturally become more skilled at recognizing and responding to the emotional landscape of others. Emotional attunement also requires empathy, but a particular kind of empathy. Not the empathy that makes you pity someone or feel their pain so intensely that you become destabilized, but the empathy that allows you to genuinely understand what someone else is experiencing, to sense what it is like to be them in that moment, while remaining grounded in yourself. This balance is crucial. You need to be open to others' emotions without becoming overwhelmed by them. You need to care about what they are experiencing without losing yourself in their experience. The law of emotional attunement is powerful because it creates safety. When someone feels that you understand not just what they are saying, but how they are feeling, they relax. They feel known. They feel that they do not have to hide their emotional experience or present a false front. This safety creates the possibility for deeper connection and more genuine relationship. Law 7, the law of magnetic energy. There is a quality of presence that is almost physical in its manifestation. Some people enter a room and the entire space seems to shift. Energy increases. Attention naturally gravitates toward them. This is not because they are demanding attention or because they are performing dramatically. It is because they are bringing a particular quality of energy to the space that is magnetic and engaging. Magnetic energy is the energy that comes from genuine aliveness. It is the quality of presence that signals to others that you are engaged with your own life, that you find things interesting and worthwhile, that you are not depleted or depressed or checked out. This energy is extraordinarily contagious. When you are around someone who is genuinely alive and engaged, you feel more alive yourself. Your own energy increases. You find yourself more interested in what is happening. You become more present. This magnetic energy does not come from forced positivity or artificial enthusiasm. It comes from genuine engagement with what is happening in the present moment. It comes from the choice to show up to your life rather than just going through the motions. It comes from finding something in this moment, in this interaction, in this situation that is genuinely interesting or worthwhile. The cultivation of magnetic energy begins with the examination of your own life. Are you genuinely engaged with what you are doing? Are you finding meaning and interest in your work, your relationships, your pursuits? Or are you going through the motions doing what you are supposed to do, but not genuinely invested in any of it? Because magnetic energy cannot be faked. It comes only when you are genuinely engaged and generally available. You cannot project it if it is not actually present in your life. One of the most direct ways to increase magnetic energy is to get engaged with something that genuinely interests you, to invest time and attention in pursuits that matter to you, to cultivate relationships that are meaningful and nourishing, to challenge yourself in ways that require your full engagement. As you become more engaged and alive in these areas of your life, the energy that you bring to all of your interactions increases. Magnetic energy also includes a quality of openness and receptivity. The person whose energy is magnetic is open to what is happening. They are not rigid or defended or closed off. They are willing to be surprised, to be moved by something, to encounter something that shifts their perspective. This openness creates a dynamic quality that is difficult to look away from. You never quite know what they are going to say or do next, but you know it will come from a genuine place. The person who practices the law of magnetic energy also tends to smile more genuinely, not in a forced way, but as a natural expression of engagement and interest. They tend to have more expressive faces and gestures, not in a theatrical way, but as a natural expression of what is happening inside them. They tend to move with ease and grace, not because they are performing for an audience, but because they are not contracted in tension and self-consciousness. The law of magnetic energy is important because energy is contagious. When you bring genuine, engaged, magnetic energy to an interaction, other people respond to it. They become more engaged themselves. They feel more alive in your presence. This is one of the most direct ways to become magnetically attractive, simply to be more genuinely alive and engaged in your own existence. Law 8, the law of comfortable silence. One of the most uncomfortable experiences for many people is silence, the pause in a conversation where nothing is being said. The moment when an interaction reaches its natural resting point before moving into something new. Most people feel compelled to fill these silences with words. They speak not because they have something to say, but because the silence feels threatening. But the person who has mastered the law of comfortable silence does something different. They are okay with silence. They do not feel compelled to fill it. They can sit with another person in quiet and feel no need to generate words or entertainment. This comfort with silence is extraordinarily magnetic because it communicates a kind of groundedness and confidence that fills cannot achieve. Comfortable silence conveys several things at once. It communicates that you are secure enough in yourself, that you do not need constant stimulation or validation. It communicates that the presence of another person is enough, that you do not need entertainment or conversation to feel that an interaction is worthwhile. It communicates that you trust the space between you, that you do not feel the need to manage it. And all of these communications, delivered silently and implicitly, create a sense of strength and presence that is deeply attractive. Comfortable silence also allows for the deepening of connection. When conversation is constant, when every pause is immediately filled with words, there is no space for integration, for reflection, for the kind of deeper understanding that emerges not in the speaking, but in the pausing. But when you are comfortable with silence, when you create space for quietness between the words, something shifts in the interaction. The depth increases, the authenticity increases, the sense of real connection increases. The practice of comfortable silence begins with the practice of being comfortable with quiet in your own internal experience. Many people are uncomfortable with their own silence, with moments when they are not distracted or entertained or engaged in activity. They keep themselves constantly stimulated, constantly engaged with something external to avoid being alone with their own thoughts. But the person who has learned to be comfortable with their own inner silence, to be at ease with their own company, naturally becomes comfortable with silence in interactions with others. One way to cultivate this is to spend deliberate time in silence. Time without your phone, without music, without any external stimulation. Time where you are simply present with yourself and whatever thoughts and feelings and sensations arise. This can be uncomfortable at first, but with regular practice, it becomes increasingly natural and increasingly rewarding. And as you become more comfortable with your own inner silence, you naturally become more comfortable with silence in your interactions with others. Comfortable silence also includes the capacity to be silent in the face of social pressure to speak. Many social situations create an implicit expectation that you will participate, that you will contribute to the conversation, that you will demonstrate your presence through speaking. But the person who is comfortable with silence can choose not to speak when they have nothing to say, or when silence is more appropriate than words, without feeling the pressure to perform talking. The law of comfortable silence is powerful because it stands out in sharp relief against the constant noise and stimulation of modern life. The person who can be genuinely quiet, who can offer real silence as a gift rather than filling it with noise, is someone exceptional. They create space for others to drop their performing, to rest, to be. And in that space, real connection becomes possible. Law 9, the law of genuine warmth. Warmth is not the same as niceness, and it is not the same as agreement. Warmth is a quality of genuine care and regard for another person. It is the quality that says, I value your well-being. I take your concerns seriously. I want good things for you. Genuine warmth can include firmness, boundaries, disagreement, and the honest expression of difficult truths. But underneath all of that, there is the thread of genuine care for the other person. Genuine warmth is magnetic because it is deeply human. Everyone is seeking to know that they are valued, that they matter, that someone genuinely cares about their well-being. In a world where so much of human interaction has become transactional and strategic, the person who brings genuine warmth into relationships stands out. They become a place where people feel safe, valued, and cared for, and people naturally want to be around those who make them feel that way. Genuine warmth is different from forced friendliness. It is different from the performance of warmth. It is a quality that comes from a genuine investment in another person's well-being, a genuine interest in their experience, a genuine hope for their success and happiness. This authenticity of care is what makes it attractive, not the behaviors themselves. You can smile and be friendly and nice, and still not communicate genuine warmth if the care beneath those behaviors is not genuine. The cultivation of genuine warmth begins with the cultivation of genuine care. This means actually caring about the well-being of the people you interact with. It means taking their concerns seriously. It means hoping that things work out well for them. It means being invested enough in their success to tell them hard truths when those hard truths are necessary. It means celebrating their victories and supporting them through their challenges, not because it is your role, but because you genuinely care. Genuine warmth also requires a certain kind of vulnerability. You cannot communicate genuine care if you are defended, if you are maintaining distance, if you are not willing to be affected by others' experiences. So the cultivation of warmth includes the cultivation of openness, of allowing others' experiences to touch you, of being willing to be moved by their joys and pains. This does not mean losing yourself in their experience. It means remaining grounded in yourself while being genuinely open to their experience. Genuine warmth also includes a quality of generosity. It includes the willingness to give of your time, your attention, your energy, not because you are obligated, but because the other person matters to you and because you want to contribute to their well-being. This generosity is noticed by people at a deep level. They feel that they are being given something that is genuinely valuable. The law of genuine warmth is powerful because it makes people feel safe. In your presence, they feel that they do not have to perform, do not have to earn your regard, do not have to prove their worth. Your warmth communicates that they are already valued simply for being themselves. And in that safety, they relax. They become more themselves. They become more open to connection and to influence. Law 10, the law of purposeful intentionality. Magnetic presence is not random. It is not the result of luck or innate talent. It is the result of purposeful intentionality, of deliberately choosing to develop the qualities and behaviors that generate attention and connection. The person who practices the law of purposeful intentionality is someone who is consciously and deliberately cultivating their presence, not in a way that appears forced or calculated, but in a way that is focused and deliberate. Purposeful intentionality includes the intention to show up fully in your interactions. Before you enter a meeting or an interaction, you take a moment to set an intention. What do I want to bring to this conversation? Who do I want to be in this interaction? How do I want to show up? This simple moment of intention setting dramatically affects the quality of presence you bring. Purposeful intentionality also includes the intention to see the other person or people clearly, to set aside your preconceptions and your agendas and to actually see who is in front of you, to see not just the surface but the deeper dimensions of who they are, to approach them with genuine curiosity about their experience, their perspectives, their humanity. This intention creates the possibility for real seeing and real connection. Purposeful intentionality includes the intention to be genuine, to consciously choose authenticity over performance, connection over impression management, real engagement over strategic interaction. This choice is not always the easiest choice, but the person who makes it consciously and deliberately, again and again, trains themselves to be more authentic, more genuine, more real. Purposeful intentionality also includes the intention to listen fully. Before a conversation, you might remind yourself, I will listen with my full attention. I will not plan my response while they are speaking. I will let myself be surprised by what they say. This simple intention, held clearly before you enter the conversation, affects the quality of listening you bring. The practice of purposeful intentionality also includes reflection after interactions, after meetings, after conversations that feel important. You take time to reflect on how it went. Did you show up the way you intended to? What did you learn? What did you notice about the other person? What shifted in the interaction? This reflection deepens your learning and helps you continue to refine your presence. Purposeful intentionality is not about controlling outcomes or manipulating situations. It is about being conscious and deliberate about who you are being and how you are showing up. It is about choosing your presence rather than defaulting into old patterns. And this conscious choice, made repeatedly over time, gradually transforms how you show up in the world. The law of purposeful intentionality is important because magnetic presence is not something that happens to you. It is something you create through deliberate choice and consistent practice. The person who is intentional about how they show up, who consciously chooses to be present and genuine and warm and curious, is the person who naturally develops greater presence and greater magnetism. Law 11, the law of respectful boundaries. One of the paradoxes of magnetic presence is that people with the strongest presence often have the strongest boundaries. They are not people pleasers. They are not trying to be everything to everyone. They know who they are and what they stand for, and they are willing to maintain those boundaries, even when doing so is uncomfortable or unpopular. Respectful boundaries are not walls. They are not defenses. They are clear understandings of what you will accept and what you will not, what is yours and what is not, what you are willing to do and what you are not willing to do. Respectful boundaries are communicated with clarity and kindness, not with hostility or defensiveness, but they are communicated clearly and they are maintained consistently. The person with strong respectful boundaries is magnetic because they communicate a clear sense of self. They are not available for every demand. They do not say yes to everything. They do not bend themselves into shapes that feel false to them. And this clarity of self, this unwillingness to compromise their fundamental integrity for approval or acceptance, is extraordinarily attractive. It creates a sense of groundedness and realness that people respond to. Respectful boundaries also mean that your presence in interactions is a genuine gift, not something that is taken from you under duress. When you show up in an interaction, it is because you have chosen to be there, not because you have felt obligated or pressured. This choice, freely made, creates a quality of energy that is entirely different from the energy of someone who is present because they feel they have to be. The practice of respectful boundaries begins with clarity about what your boundaries are. What are your non-negotiables? What can you compromise on and what can you not? What kind of treatment do you require? What kind of relationships feel nourishing to you and what kind feel depleting? These are questions worth asking and answering clearly for yourself. Respectful boundaries also include the capacity to communicate them clearly and kindly. You do not need to be harsh or aggressive in maintaining your boundaries. You simply need to be clear and consistent. When something is not okay with you, you say so. When something is not acceptable to you, you communicate that. And when someone tests your boundary, you respond not with anger, but with consistency. Respectful boundaries also mean that you hold others to the standards you hold yourself to. You do not allow people to treat you in ways that you would not treat them. You do not accept behavior that you would not engage in yourself. This consistency creates a sense of fair play and integrity that people respect. The law of respectful boundaries is important because boundaries actually increase your capacity for genuine connection. When you have clear boundaries, you know what is safe and what is not. You know what you can genuinely offer and what you cannot. This clarity allows you to show up more fully in the areas where you can be genuine and authentic. It also protects you from the resentment that builds when you have given more than you were willing to give, when you have compromised yourself beyond what feels right. Law 12, the law of consistent alignment. One of the most powerful things a person can do to develop magnetic presence is to get their life into alignment. Alignment between what they say they value and what they actually do. Alignment between their public presentation and their private reality. Alignment between their intentions and their actions. This consistency creates a kind of integrity that is extraordinarily magnetic. Consistent alignment means that there are no major contradictions between different aspects of your life. You are not someone who talks about values but acts in contradiction to those values. You are not someone who projects an image that does not match your reality. You are not someone whose behavior in public is dramatically different from your behavior in private. This kind of consistency creates a sense of trustworthiness and realness that people respond to. Consistent alignment includes alignment between your words and your actions. When you say you are going to do something, you do it. When you communicate a value, you live that value. When you make a commitment, you keep it. This kind of follow-through seems like basic integrity, and it is, but it is also surprisingly rare. Most people have some gap between what they say and what they do. The person who has minimized that gap is someone who stands out. Consistent alignment also includes alignment between your different roles and relationships. You are not one person at work, another person with your family, and yet another person with your friends. in ways that are contradictory or inauthentic. Rather, there is a core you that remains consistent across these different contexts, even if the expression of that core self is appropriately modified for different environments. The practice of consistent alignment begins with the honest examination of your life. Where are the gaps between what you say you value and what you actually do? Where are the inconsistencies between your public presentation and your private reality? Where are you living in contradiction to your own values? These are not pleasant questions to ask, but they are important questions. And noticing where you are out of alignment is the first step toward bringing yourself into greater alignment. Bringing yourself into alignment often requires making changes. It might require examining your work or your relationships and asking whether they are aligned with your actual values or whether you are engaging in them out of habit or obligation. It might require making different choices about where you spend your time and attention. It might require having difficult conversations with people in your life. But the rewards of alignment are profound. You feel more integrated. You feel more authentic, and others feel it too. Consistent alignment also includes alignment between your current actions and your desired future. Are you actually doing the things that will lead you toward the future you want, or are you engaged in behaviors that are moving you away from it? The person who is living in alignment with their vision of the future is someone who is moving with purpose and clarity. That sense of purposeful movement is magnetic. The law of consistent alignment is important because integrity is extraordinarily attractive. People want to be around people whose words and actions align, whose values and behaviors align, whose public and private selves align. Because in the presence of that kind of alignment, people feel they can trust, and trust is the foundation of all meaningful connection. Law 13, the law of continuous growth. Magnetic presence is not static. It is not something you achieve and then maintain at the same level. It is something that deepens and develops over time through continuous growth and learning. The person who practices the law of continuous growth is someone who is always learning, always developing, always pushing at the edges of who they are. Continuous growth includes learning in the formal sense, reading books, taking courses, studying new subjects, expanding your knowledge and skill in areas that interest you. But it also includes the less formal learning that comes from reflection on your experiences, from conversations with people who think differently than you, from being willing to be wrong and to adjust your perspective when new information or insights suggest that a change is warranted. Continuous growth also includes the growth that comes from challenging yourself, taking on new roles or responsibilities that stretched you slightly beyond your current capacity. Having conversations that are difficult or uncomfortable because they force you to examine your assumptions, making changes in your life that require you to develop new skills or capacities. This kind of growth is not always comfortable, but it is extraordinarily valuable. Continuous growth includes being willing to be vulnerable and to learn from failure. Every mistake, every failure, every moment where things did not work out the way you hoped is an opportunity to learn something. The person who can look at these difficult experiences with curiosity rather than shame, who can ask, "What can I learn from this?" is someone who is continuously growing and developing. Continuous growth also includes the willingness to ask for feedback and to actually receive it, to seek out perspectives from people who care about you and who are willing to tell you hard truths about areas where you could grow, to listen to that feedback not defensively, but with openness and genuine interest in understanding how you are showing up in the world. The practice of continuous growth begins with the recognition that you are not finished, that there is always more to learn, always more to develop, always more ways in which you can grow and improve. This is not an exhausting perspective. It is actually a liberating one, because it means that you are not evaluated on where you are now, but on whether you are moving toward growth and development. Continuous growth also includes reflection, taking time regularly to consider what you have learned, how you have changed, what is emerging in you, This reflection helps you integrate new learning and understand the trajectory of your own development. It also helps you consciously choose the direction of your growth rather than simply drifting. The law of continuous growth is important because people are attracted to others who are alive and developing. The person who is learning and growing and developing is someone who is engaged with life. They bring energy and aliveness and freshness to interactions, and people naturally want to be around that kind of energy. Magnetic presence deepens as you deepen, and one of the primary ways you deepen is through continuous growth. Law 14, the law of genuine service. At the foundation of all magnetic presence is genuine service. Service not in the sense of civility or self-sacrifice, but in the sense of using your presence, your gifts, your attention, and your care in service of others' well-being. The person who practices the law of genuine service is someone whose magnetic presence naturally attracts others because their presence is experienced as genuinely beneficial. Genuine service means that your primary orientation when you are with someone is not, "What can I get from this interaction?" but "How can I be genuinely helpful? What do they need? What would serve their well-being or their growth or their understanding?" This orientation completely shifts the energy of an interaction. The other person feels less like they are being used and more like they are being genuinely supported. Genuine service also means that you are genuinely willing for things to work out for the other person, even if it is not in your direct interest. You celebrate their success without needing to be part of it. You support their growth without needing to control it. You want good things for them, not because it will benefit you, but because you genuinely care about their well-being. This kind of unconditional positive regard is extraordinarily powerful. Genuine service includes practical service, doing things that help and support others. But it also includes the service of your presence, your attention, and your genuine care. Sometimes the greatest service you can offer another person is to be fully present with them, to listen to them with your complete attention, to see them and acknowledge them and value them. This kind of presence is a gift that creates profound ripple effects. Genuine service also includes the willingness to tell someone a hard truth if you believe they need to hear it. If someone is engaged in a pattern that is harming them, if they are not seeing something important, if they could benefit from a different perspective, genuine service includes the willingness to speak that truth kindly but clearly. This is different from judgment or criticism. This is the service of bringing perspective that someone might not be able to see for themselves. The practice of genuine service begins with the cultivation of genuine care. To practice genuine service, you have to actually care about other people's well-being. This is not something you can fake. So, the cultivation of genuine service includes the cultivation of compassion, empathy, and genuine investment in others' lives and well-being. Genuine service also includes the understanding that serving others actually serves you. When you approach others with genuine care and genuine desire to be helpful, when you use your presence and your gifts in service of their well-being, you discover that you are happier, more fulfilled, and more deeply connected. There is nothing selfish about genuine service because serving others is actually one of the deepest forms of self-care and self-fulfillment. The law of genuine service is the culmination of all the laws that came before it. When you combine undivided focus, genuine curiosity, authentic presence, presence over performance, quality listening, emotional attunement, magnetic energy, comfortable silence, genuine warmth, purposeful intentionality, respectful boundaries, consistent alignment, and continuous growth, all in service of genuinely caring for and supporting others, what emerges is a presence that is extraordinarily magnetic because it is genuinely beneficial to be around. Conclusion: the integration of attention. You have journeyed through 14 laws, 14 principles that, when understood and integrated, fundamentally transform how you show up in the world and how others respond to you. But the real work of magnetic presence does not happen in the reading of these laws. It happens in the living of them, in the moment-by-moment choices you make about how present you will be, how authentic, how caring, how intentional. The magnetic presence that you seek is not something external that you need to acquire. It is not a technique you need to master. It is something that is already present within you, waiting to be uncovered and developed. It is the natural magnetism that emerges when you are genuinely present, genuinely curious, genuinely yourself, and genuinely caring for others. It is who you are when you drop the defenses and the performances and the need to be impressive, and simply show up as yourself. The practice of these 14 laws is a practice of uncovering your authentic magnetic presence. It is a gradual process of removing the obstacles that stand between your true self and the world, and of developing the capacities and skills that allow that true self to show up more fully, more consistently, and more powerfully. As you practice these laws, as you live them, you will notice subtle shifts in how others respond to you. You will notice that people listen to you more carefully. You will notice that conversations go deeper. You will notice that you have a kind of influence that does not come from force or manipulation, but from genuine presence and genuine care. This is the promise of the attention code. Not that you will become someone other than who you are. Not that you will develop a technique that allows you to manipulate others' attention, but that you will become more fully yourself, more authentically present, more genuinely caring, and that in that fullness of self, your magnetic presence will naturally increase. People will be drawn to you, not because you are trying to attract them, but because in your presence they feel more seen, more valued, more alive. And that is the greatest gift you can offer anyone.